right, everybody, we got another very special guest for you, a returning special guest. Everybody, welcome back to the show, Timothy Fling. Welcome, Tim.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being back. And, we had to have you back, most importantly, because all of your lovely backdrops that you have. You're one of the few that likes to put their stuff behind them like they're at a con when they're doing interviews, and always appreciate that.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you saying it's something that what we've been talking about, and I love talking to you guys about this, is that I'm at the stage where I have to increase my branding, they call it, right?
Yep.
And to try and level up this year. And, I'm a big fan of you guys' podcast, and I think you do great work. And one of the things that you've probably noticed is that some people don't seem to really, how do I say this? I don't want to be disparaging to anybody because it takes all kinds of great people, but some people don't necessarily put a whole lot of effort into the production quality of their shows, where you guys have a nice production quality. So I want to make sure I brought my A game.
Wow.
What I mean by that, it's always funny, like you interview some people and they've got their roommate coming in behind them and using the bathroom, that kind of thing. Hey, I'm not making fun of everybody. It's this thing that happens. But for me, I'm trying to build visibility toward my books and the series that I'm promoting, and also to help build my YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm in the process of trying to buy a house within the next year. And that's going to be one of the things, like there's going to be a room, and that's going to be the podcast room.
The podcast room,
yeah. And
it's really going to be the comic room, but it's the podcast room.
As you guys probably know, I'm a comic collector too. And originally this was my basement, but now in my basement we do what they call a Kickstarter fulfillment. And that means that at any given time, there's probably, it's probably a little over 500 books down there, all spread out on this. I'll be honest with you, what it is, it's a ping pong table.
Yeah.
But it's like,
gets the job done.
It gets the job done, right? But you can say, hey, so if you need issue 1, it's here, issue 3, because they tend to be, not every customer buys the same thing. So I've got to have everything sort of spread out like an assembly line, and you click down the line and you fill the orders. But the problem with that is it took up all the room that I was using to make the podcast with. So I'm going to need another, I guess that's the right kind of problem. Now I have too many books, but I'm going to need a separate podcasting area. But just between us right now, what you're seeing is I'm actually in the kitchen with like lamps and stuff around me. And this is just, I have the banners behind me for a better backdrop.
That's awesome. And I like to see the titles of the books with your name highlighted. Like, it's always important to have your name, especially on the cover too. Do we know, hey, we're talking to Tim today.
Right.
These are his books. And yeah, that was a nice little flex you had there, 500 books, because you have been building reputation on Kickstarter, right? I mean, you're coming up on your next
this is
one.
number. It's the 6th of my own, and I've been in, I guess, 2 or 3 anthologies. So, and of course, the anthologies, I want to give all the credit to the creators, because I'm just in that case what they call a contributor. This current one, it is a Water Wars based story, but it's in Travis Gibbs' new book, which is called Tales from the Collective Initiative. And it's live on Kickstarter right now. And it features 4 of the best indie creators in the market today, some of them whose work I really admire. Edward Davis is in there with one of his Immortal Era stories. Austin Janowski's in there with his zombie story. It's good stuff. And I was very fortunate to be included. I'm very grateful to be associated with these guys. It's good for me. And, I'm really grateful for all these things that are happening. If you would have told me last year, this is all what would happen, I probably wouldn't have believed it. But it's like they say, people often underestimate what is going to happen in 5 years. Like, I'm a writer, right? I didn't know I was going to become a publisher. I didn't know I was going to be making videos. These things all happened accidentally while I was doing the other things. So I guess you just have to try and learn as much as you can and keep going.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome to be included on something like that. So
I think it's important to mention real quick. You said 4 of the best comic creators. None of them are Travis Gibb.
Yeah.
Well,
None of them.
In this case, he's the publisher, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
And he's got a pretty strong reputation too.
No, we love Travis. Yeah.
Do you? Okay, good. Because
Chris is good friends with Travis. Yeah,
Travis is a bum.
Yeah. So we can say these things and it won't fall back on us.
Let's take a second then and gossip about Travis Gibb, because I'm going to tell you something that's going to surprise you.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've been telling him for months, hey, I got this YouTube channel and I'm trying to build it. And what we do, we take these 11 items and we talk about the top 11. They're lists and people can come in and argue. And we talked about, well, maybe comics or this and that. And, he worked on his new book is a kid's book and it has a song with it. And it's this really catchy song, right? And I jokingly said, how about something musical, like maybe Broadway musicals? And honestly, I said this is about half a joke, and thinking that Travis would not be knowledgeable about Broadway musicals. And he goes, hey, man, I'll take it. He comes on the show. He is the most knowledgeable guy about Broadway musicals and musicals in general that you could imagine. And we just had a terrific time.
That's
and not
amazing.
Only that, it was what I would call a surprisingly personal interview, by which I mean, as you guys know, sometimes the interviews, they can go a number of different directions.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And sometimes you delve into somebody's background and their past, and you'll get these very personal and emotional stories. And Travis just did a hell of a job. And I was really impressed. So if you like musicals, or if you want to know more about Travis, please come check it out.
That's great. I would have never, that's not something I'd ever bring up, because I mean, we're always here to promote, your guys' stuff when you're on the show, but that's awesome. That's just something he's very knowledgeable about. And it just makes me like Travis even more.
Yeah. Right. And for example, some of the things that we mentioned, he was actually in productions of them. When he was in school. Wow. He was in The Wizard of Oz, and he was in, I think it was, was it Godspell? It might've been Jesus Christ Superstar. And I was just
my God.
Really?
That's awesome.
It surprised even me. And I think maybe we talked about this before. I'm a musician. I've been a bassist most of my life. So I've been in a few of these things, but I'm always the guy that's a little bit behind the scenes, if you know what I mean. Nobody's knocking the door down to meet the bassist,
Right.
But that was my interaction with them.
Yep. Hey, someone's got to play bass, though. You're a vital part of the music, I'll tell you.
Oh man, thanks. I knew I loved you.
Someone has to play that bass line. All right. You could think you don't need it. You need it, everybody. If you're trying to start a band, listen.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that. Thanks for saying that.
Somebody's got to round up the groupies for everybody else while they sit alone in the corner.
That's right. There's a pretty famous meme that shows about how the guys in the band, and it's like the first is the lead singer, and he's got all the girls around him, and then it's the lead guitarist, and he's got all the flashy guitars, and he's got the cool cars pulling up, and then it's the bassist, and he's holding the door open for the other guys.
Still a vital part.
Somebody's got to hold the door open.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's talk about that small story you're doing of Water Wars. How does that tie in with everything else you've done? Is it kind of like a side story with some familiar characters that we know, or
it is a little bit? And just quick explain it. The world of the Water Wars is kind of like what it is. It's an overarching series of short stories. And what I mean by that, you can buy any one issue. Like if you buy number 3, that's a complete issue, and you can read the stories that are in it. You don't have to read number 1 because it's continued. The one part that is always overarching is the world that they are in. Like it might be a different character in number 3 and number 1, but they live and interact in the same place and in the same timeline. And in this case, the short story that we made for Travis Gibbs, it is his Travis Gibbs new collection. It's called The Ascendance of the Terramorph. And it was designed to be, it's a little bit like a tribute to these 1950s classic sci-fi movies. Nice. And what I mean by that, it's almost, I don't want to say it's silly, but it has the feel a little bit of a B movie. And the plot of it is, there's a scientist, she's a female geneticist, and she's racing against time to deactivate her experiment before a pandemic causes the collapse of civilization. And what is revealed is what she's been working on is this new breed of creatures, which are spliced DNA creatures that are half human and half animal. And she has bred into them a resistance to this disease, which is called E76, which is in the other story. And the whole idea is right when she gets to the end, the creature is, you realize he's influencing her mind, like free me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then I don't want to, I guess, don't want to give away the spoiler too much.
Right.
But that's the idea, is will she save the human race or destroy it? And if you're reading the stories of Water Wars 2288, this is the one where you go, oh, so that's why this weird world is full of monsters.
Yeah.
Yes, this is why.
Oh, and that's very cool.
So the stories, like I was saying, you really don't have to read them in sequence or anything like that. You can read just one. But if you're the type of person who likes lore and who likes the background material, you can look through and be like, so that's why she has one arm. Yes, we did explain that. Oh, so that's why the robots hate the humans. Yes, that's in number 2. Oh, so that's why the disease killed everybody. Yes, that's in number 1. Like it's all answered somewhere. And in Ascendance of the Terramorph answers the question, why are there genetically enhanced minotaurs? Why is the sky filled with these flying creatures? They've all been set loose by Science Officer Jenkins, the last surviving science officer.
And, those science officers are always breaking quarantine.
Yeah.
And that's like the lovely trope of, sci-fi movies. The first thing they do, PhD breaks quarantine. It's like, come on, really?
Scientists are the worst.
They really are. And I just want to quick mention, because I know you guys are fans of this material too.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly what it's designed for. Like if you like those sort of corny sci-fi movies where the scientists break the rules and their creation ends up destroying the world, man, you will love this short story. And that's exactly what it's designed for.
I'm on board, man. All I can think about is like, the alien movies where it's like, oh, we have like a parasitic alien in this room, and I'm a PhD doctor. Let me break quarantine and infect everyone. It's like, no, you will never do that. Let me open this door and kill us all. Amazing. So I think that's really cool that you got involved with Travis. It sounds like a really cool story that ties into everything else. Because,
and they were great to work with too. I didn't know at the time. What I've been doing, you guys know I'm a short story writer. And for many years, I had written short stories and essentially never got any traction with simple short stories. And that's a different path. You submit to anthologies and this kind of thing. And finally, somebody said to me, hey, you ought to try having these illustrated, right? And because I had always loved comics. That isn't new. It's my favorite thing. Right. And so what I have been doing, of course, I write and publish my own series, and we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But I made a point to say, hey, I'm going to write this, and I'm going to submit it here. And I'm going to write this, and I'm going to submit it here. And I would kind of watch and see what kind of things that they were doing and see if I could get the stories in. But the difference is I would write the stories what I call framed. Like, in other words, they fit in my universe, but they would also fit in that person's anthology they were making. Like, for example, last year I did the short story with Russell Nolte's Cthulhu is Hard to Spell. Yep. And what they were looking for was Lovecraftian short stories. And I was never really a big Lovecraft guy. Do you guys like Lovecraft at all?
Yeah.
He's okay, right?
I like the monsters, that's
right.
I
the
like
monsters.
Cthulhu.
Arguably the monster is the best part, but he's not an easy read. Let's be honest, and the material is very dense.
I actually bought the complete Lovecraft short story book and everything, and they are rough.
It's really dense. It's hard to read through. And even the way he describes the creatures, like he doesn't say, well, it was a monster with tentacles and he had 100 eyes. It's like, he was an unspeakable horror that defied imagination. Well, dude, that doesn't really tell us what he looked like.
Yeah, you need to help us out.
Help me out a little bit.
Yeah.
So in my case, we wrote a short story, and it is about these 3 monks. And here, by the way, I'm not on his show today, so I'll spoil it with you. Remember, the Water Wars stories always end on what we call a twist. Like if you like Twilight Zone or Night Gallery or any of those classic films, the last sequence always, wait, what? It's a twist at the end.
Right.
So in this one, the twist was you meet these 3 monks and they're trudging through the snow, right? And it's this blizzard. And what you realize is that the world has had this polar cataclysm. Okay. And what they're doing is they're trying to free this elder god from another dimension to summon it back to Earth. So anyway, they get to they summon the god from this other, and she's a female, by the way, this Lovecraftian horror. And she comes through the portal and she says, I'm ready to conquer Earth. Where are the souls? And the robot says, well, there's been an error. And she says, what do you mean an error? And he says, well, there was a war between the humans and robot kind, and we were trying to tip the balance in our favor. So we adjusted the temperature. And she says, what do you mean? And she looks around, there's snow blanketing everything, and school buses are covered, and the cities are all covered with snow. And he says, well, it was our error. We have effectively ended all human life. And the guy pulls his hood back, and the monks are 3 robots. And he says, only your mechanical disciples remain. Anyway, the idea is so there's no more souls for her to take.
That's awesome.
And, it's pretty cool, right? And of course, that one ended up getting picked up by the book. So I'm very happy about that. And of course, the great thing is it's still included. It can be, we have post-apocalyptic short stories in our books, so I can put that into my next book. The cool thing about Russell and Travis, you retain the rights to your stories, so you can still use them. So that one's
was
going
actually
in.
My next question for you, because I assume at some point we're going to do a trade of all the Water Wars stuff, so this would have to be included into it.
Correct. And what we've talked about doing is we're even to go back and we're going to put them all in kind of sequential orders, you know what I mean? So that you can read through it and it'll all be a correct timeline, which maybe isn't even really necessary to do that. But it is at this point, it's got, well, number 4 just came out. I was telling you guys we have our fulfillment is this week. So roughly about 50% of the customers have their books already.
Wow.
So yeah, awesome. And the plan is when we get to number 5, it'll include the Error of the Last Acolyte story. It'll include the Ascendance of the Terramorph story, and it'll also include Water Wars 2288 volumes 1 through 4, which will be something like, 120 pages, maybe more than that. And nice. I kind of want to write even one more story, but maybe that's for the next volume. I guess I'll see how many pages it is. But people like trades, so now there's enough material to where it's coming.
Yeah, we definitely like trades. They look nice on the bookshelf.
And we started doing this thing. We do the chrome enhanced logos on the trades.
Yeah.
So when you hold them, they're like shiny. And I even do when you turn the spine is like a shiny logo on the spine.
I'm a sucker for the shiny spines.
You sold one.
Yeah. And by the way, it's a little more expensive to do that, but it's not crazy. It adds like $2 a book or something. But in the trades, I'm generally going to be around that. I guess that's probably going to be around a $19 book, or maybe $22, something like that.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
With chrome on it, sold.
Yeah. We have the Water Wars Chronicles. That's the hand painted one. That's the one that's already out. That's 106 pages, and that's chrome logo, and that's 24 for that one.
Okay, I'll be buying that after the episode.
So it's in the wheelhouse, right? And then I guess not too long after that, I guess I should start taking a look at a hardcover. I haven't done that yet.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, I'm actually, I don't buy a ton of trades anymore, but hardcovers get me every time.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a couple hardcovers coming.
Because even like the big publishers don't do a lot of hardcovers. You got to have something special. And like when I love seeing a hardcover on the shelf and then holding it. I prefer that, but yeah.
I definitely want to do that as soon as I am able. So that's something that I got. Basically, my next 2 projects this year will be, I have my next Kickstarter coming up. That is going to be for the Cryptid book. And then Water Wars number 5 will be right behind that. And when I say number 5, really that'll be it's a trade of the whole thing with these 2 new stories in it.
Awesome. Can't wait for that.
That was a good transition. Let's talk about some cryptids.
Yeah, let's talk about
cryptids. So and that's something I'm real excited about this, guys. So thanks for asking. I'm really grateful that you guys give a platform to indie creators. And I got to stress, I got to stress how important it is for a guy at my level to have a way to tell people about these books. Sometimes it takes a really long time to make one. And then sometimes you get right to the finish line and you kind of feel like there's not too much interest or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm really grateful for what you guys are doing for me.
Thanks. Thank you.
So the next book here, it's called Call of the Cryptid. And what it is a cryptid-based science fiction visual adventure. And it has sort of what we call the hand-painted look, similar to the stories in The Hunchback or Lost at Sea. Like if you look behind me, see the Hunchback there, how he's kind of hand painted? That's what the Cryptid book looks like.
Okay.
And each book features a new cryptid, or sometimes 2 in each book being released. And it's going to run for 4 issues. And the first one starts with, the premise of it is, after an alien encounter, a young girl gains the ability to communicate with a race of legendary monsters. And the idea is she's like a typical American teenager in the 1980s, and she's really into music and stuff and got troubles in school and all the regular stuff. And then one night she is abducted by aliens. When she gets back, they have reset the timeline as if it didn't happen. They've sort of erased her memory. And her radio keeps acting up like she's being contacted by these creatures. And that is essentially the premise of the first volume. So on the one hand, you have the creatures. On the other hand, you have the aliens and the Men in Black. Are you a fan of the Men in Black?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because they feature pretty prominently in the first book. They're the bad guys.
You're speaking my language.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, I guess I'll give you the twist, because I mean we're talking about it on the air. Because the twist of this one is that it turns out that the cryptids are in fact not the bad guys. In fact, they're on our side in trying to repel this alien invasion. What the aliens are trying to do is they're trying to bring about this being of pure mathematics to control the universe, to bring order to the universe. And it's a little bit of an anti-AI message.
Okay. Interesting.
That's a positive message.
Yeah. I'm one of the guys. I'm staunchly against AI.
It's kind of scary.
Has nobody watched Terminator?
Yeah. Right, exactly. We're acting like it never happened. I mean, come on.
James Cameron warned us of this, everybody.
Yeah, come on. We should know.
Well, and I'm one of the fellas. I've got a horse in this race. You know, some of the artists say things like, if you're an artist, your work can be what they call scrubbed. And what they mean by scrubbed is you'll see this AI will start to put out artwork that is similar to your artwork. Yeah. And they don't necessarily credit the prior artists. And all of a sudden you'll see a work of art, on social media or wherever you get your artwork, and it'll look like somebody that you know and admire, and it'll have nothing to do with that person. Right. And in my case, what happened was I actually saw it in a Facebook post. There's an author by the name of Ben Krieger, whose work I also admire. And he said, "Hey, does Tim Fling know about this?" And it was on Reddit. And the guy was putting out his new book called Water Wars. And it was the cover of the book. And it looked like my logo and looked like my artwork. And it even looked like the character. And I was like, "What?" I said, "I didn't know about this." And he said, "You might want to contact this fella. He's an AI generated art guy." Wow. So I wrote to him and I said, because first you start out real nice, right? You say, "Hey, fella, you might not have known this. I'm writing a series here called Water Wars. It's been out about 5 years now, published internationally. It's got a trademark, the whole bit, been in anthologies. It's, published overseas." And he was like, "Oh man, I'm sorry. I didn't know, blah, blah, blah." He said, "Listen, I didn't even write the story yet. I used an AI generator and it must have scrubbed your images." And I was like, "Yeah, it must have." Well, anyway, he took it right down. So it all ended well. But I was like, now that it affected me, look, I'm anti-AI. Like, you don't even have to ask the person, you see.
Right. That's crazy.
And I mean, I'm telling you, I should show you. It looked like, it even looked like the cover of one of my books.
Wow. Yeah. He probably like put in some AI thing like the Chat GPT or something, like create me a story I could write a comic about, and it pulls your images off.
Yeah, because most of the keywords that you would use appear in my book.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
It's fun to be like Joe Biden on a surfboard, and then you get like this weird image that's like cobbled together.
Right.
That's as far as I've ever taken AI to be like, let's use this as a comic. Like, I don't know this.
Right. Well, and now that it's advancing, you can even say things like, "Draw me a 4-panel Batman page in the style of Neil Adams." Like, it'll emulate his style. And that's where it is now. Imagine where it'll be in 3 years,
Yeah. That's crazy.
But on a more positive note,
it's funny. It's funny you brought that up, because the latest South Park episode of like last week was all about that, like people using AI generated responses and then using AI generated work. And so that we eventually just live in like AI repeating itself. You know what I mean? Like people communicating through AI. So it's like nobody's, being an individual. And I was like, wow, that's a lot more scary than I thought.
Yeah, it's a scary time. It's a scary time. So what I'm trying to do is to lean away from that stuff.
Right.
To circle back around to, like, so we got this Cryptid book, which is using this, what we call the hand painted look for the artwork. And that's by my partner, Erwin Arosa. And it's going to have some cool things too. Like, we're going to have a couple of sets of Cryptid trading cards. And we do what they call a chrome enhanced trading card. And what it is, it's a 2-layer printing process by which one layer is chrome and then the bottom layer is ink, so that when you turn it, it looks like a mirror kind of.
Okay, cool.
And the last one we did was robot Marilyn Monroe, and it was like it's a little bit like looking at a mirror, and when it reflects, you can see her slogan, the wording at the bottom.
Yeah.
And the new one is going to be, it's going to be like you're looking in a spaceship door, kind of. Okay. And then the alien's coming out, and he has a little bit of the look of something like The Day the Earth Stood Still, where he's like sort of coming out a portal. And then the shiny part, it's like he's going to be coming out of this shiny blue. It's going to look like he's coming out of something blue and shiny on the card.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. And we're really digging the design of it. And, we got a couple of things. Of course, we write our own songs. One of them is that if we get to a certain stretch goal, and I'm still figuring out exactly what the stretch goals will be, but it's going to have it's sort of what I call it's a 1950s movie theme song, but it's got a heavy metal feel to it. What I mean is it's got dual guitar. It's as if Iron Maiden was playing it.
Okay, awesome.
But it's also going to have, like, if you listen to those old movies, they have what I call a theremin. Do you know what a theremin is? It's
like, yeah,
have that
Star Trek theme song.
Exactly. Yeah. So, we're going to do a little bit of that in there too, and it's just a lot of fun to make these kicks.
Tim, do you own a theremin? Because that's awesome.
I don't actually.
And it's funny. I was like, where did you find one? If you
as much as I just complained about the artificially generated things, when we do the songs, they're what they call plugins. And what that means is you can just play it on a keyboard or even a guitar,
right?
And then you put in the song you want, the sound that you want, and it'll sound like an orchestra or a bassoon or a flute. What comes out is different than what went in.
Yeah.
Just to answer that question for you, Mike, guitarcenter.com, $400.
Oh, wow. That's cheaper than I thought it would be. Because
Amazon also $400.
I didn't think they still made theremins.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's apparently a thing, like you can play one and get pretty good at it.
Wow. Okay.
I've never done it, but now that you say that, I kind of want to try.
Yeah, I kind of mess around with one.
I think it's important to note, too, that as I search theremins for sale, a automaton Kirby saxophone.
Okay. Never heard of that.
And it's Kirby, the video game Kirby.
Oh,
so
nice.
It's a pink saxophone with Kirby at the bottom.
That's directed towards you for sure, Chris. They knew
that's definitely my algorithm right there.
Yeah.
So back to the Cryptid. I'm a big fan of variant covers. Are you doing anything like that this time around?
Yeah, and it's going to have a couple of pretty cool things. And one quick comment, we do it a little different, and here's what I mean by that. There's some people say it's really smart to use, like you'd use 5 different variant cover artists. And, you try to find people that are either maybe have their own following or, maybe you think their art style just suits the project. And in my case, what I've done, with one exception, is all the variant covers will be designed by the same man who is also doing the interior pages. And the reason why, it has a certain consistency, like, I guess the best way to put it is the art is not very comic-y. It's going to be somewhat along the lines of, some of the earlier books from DC, they used to do a thing called prestige format. And they did like Black Orchid and Arkham Asylum. And it was a guy by the name of Dave McKean, where he had sort of like this trippy visual art style. And, honestly, every page looked like a work of art more so than a comic panel. And again, that's not me ripping on a comic panel.
Right,
I love comics. But I didn't want the cover to look like a comic when all the other things looked sort of hand painted. So the variant covers in this case will be, you have the first cover is what we call the movie poster cover, which is the illustration of the main heroine, and she's surrounded by the 4 cryptids. And the ones we went with the cover, it's Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and the Mothman are on the cover.
Awesome.
And then the second one is what we call the encounter, and it's kind of like her looking up at the UFO. You're seeing her from the back. And then the third one is going to be what we call the noir edition. It's going to be a black and white edition, cover and interior, sort of designed like a creepy magazine or an eerie magazine, if you know what that is. I've wanted to do that for years.
Wow.
And then the next one is, there was one variant cover artist, a guy by the name of Max Veltri, and it looks like it's what we would call an X-Files cover. And it has it has the UFO and Bigfoot standing there. It's really very kind of weird and trippy. Really what we're going for is a sort of like a trippy visual look for this thing.
Okay.
And I'm trying to make it to where it stands out from other comic projects, which is hard to do. It's
it is. I can imagine it is.
It's kind of a crowded field these days.
Yeah.
Oh, and I forgot the most important one, not the most important one, but we always do what they call a homage cover. And in this case, it is Fantastic Four 51, which is the one where the Thing is standing on the cover. It's this man, this
monster.
Yeah.
And
man.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. And it is, ours says this mystery, this monster. And it's Bigfoot standing there like the way the Thing is standing there. And then behind him is the alien. And on the side, it's the hero Cadence, like where Sue is, where she's going, "What are you doing?" And it's Cadence going, "What are you doing?"
That is one of Mike's like all-time favorite comics.
That's the only Fantastic Four issue I own. I love that issue. It's one of my favorite stories of Fantastic Four. I gotta buy the variant.
Listen, you're a man after my own heart. It would be fair to say that is my favorite cover of all time, and that's why I chose it. And also, if you, like our Bigfoot is a little bit of a, like I said, remember the stories have a little bit of a twist, right? Like in this one, Bigfoot he's what I would call the sci-fi version of Bigfoot. Like he wears radiation goggles, right?
That's cool.
And he has this device that he uses to communicate between the dimensions, and he has lines. He's not like an ape. He's like a super intelligent sci-fi Bigfoot. And he's a very big part of the story. He's the one that's trying to contact the girl the whole time. And he's the one that explains, look, you're all in terrible danger. This alien race is getting ready to enslave you with the mathematics.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I got to ask, you mentioned a few cryptids here. They're going to be the book. Are those the complete list of cryptids? And if so, why didn't you include the best one of all time?
Let me hear what you think the best one is.
It's sheep squash.
Sheep squash. That's amazing.
Sheep squash rules.
Our list, and I'll go down through them, which the first thing is, it's going to be roughly 28 pages per issue. And it's going to sort out to be about 110 pages at the end. But they're not all crammed into the first book. Each one will, like, as they go further, it gets more and more populated. Some are good guys, some are bad guys. It does turn out one is a hoax. But our lineup will be, you ready for this? It is the Alien Gray is the first one from the UFO. Okay. Then there's the Men in Black. Mm-hmm. Then there's Bigfoot. So those are the three in the first monsters. Then issue 2 is the Mothman.
Okay, great, love
and
it.
And then the Hopkinsville Goblins make a cameo. Then there is the Flatwoods Monster. Is in that one. That's the guy who has the Ace of Spades head.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that was the name.
Yeah, and then and that's issue 2, and then number 3 will be the Loch Ness Monster ends up saving her from drowning, and then and I'll give some of the stuff away because it's interesting. Turns out the Loch Ness Monster in our version is a hoax. It's a mechanical creature being piloted by he's like a mad scientist, and
my god,
he built himself.
That's awesome.
Everything's got like a little a reimagining sort of.
Right.
And then after the Loch Ness Monster, it is the Yeti.
Okay.
Right. And then the ending of that book, you find out that the Men in Black are actually not aliens at all, but they are like the reanimated bodies of the dead. So by the third issue, the Men in Black are starting to rot. They become what we call the rotting Men in Black. Right. They're starting to look really gross. Right. Yeah. And that's when it starts to go faster because you're queuing up to the big battle for number 4. And then issue number 4 is very surreal. And you essentially have the final combat between the alien race, all the united cryptids. Our hero Cadence is in there. And also there are the other aliens start to come through, and they are these mathematical beings. And the elder god that they summon, when the god comes through, he is in fact not a god at all because, of course, it's a mathematical race. He's a giant robot.
Oh, man.
Nice.
I love it. Sold. I'm sold.
Yeah, thanks, man. And like I say, each thing that we make, we try to make it to where it was not quite like each thing has like a little twist,
Yeah.
Didn't hear one mention of sheep squatch though, so
maybe I'll see if I can work in. I'll get a cameo. I'll get him a cameo. There's a couple things I wanted to put in too that didn't make it because there's some great ones like
Jersey Devil's one that comes.
Jersey Devil, Dover Demon. If you like Dover Demon.
Yep.
Chupacabra. Right. Yeah. And so maybe what I'll do when I get to issue 4, I'll do a lot of cameos.
Yeah. Like have a lab or something with a lot of them floating there. I don't know.
Right. Well, and you make a good point because, we did this YouTube episode about the cryptids and it was our best viewed episode. And I'm like, oh my gosh, people really dig cryptids. I hope they show up for the book.
You're like smoothly doing these segues for us. And I love it. Like, I don't, like Chris and I are just sitting here like, man, this is great. I'm just chilling in this interview. You do all the work for us. Yeah.
Before we jump into that, I'm on the Cryptid wiki.
Yeah.
And that's where I got my list of cryptids I was going through. And I got to say, I mean, first of all, Bat Squatch is a thing I didn't know about, which is I'm tabbing that for later because that looks phenomenal.
I'm going to research that one.
But there's some ones in here that I'm going to call BS on.
Yeah.
Number 1, giant goldfish.
Yeah,
it's literally somebody who just fished out a giant goldfish.
Yeah, that's not a thing.
Goblins, they're not a cryptid. It's a fantasy creature.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
yeah.
Do you know the I forget the city right now, the Frogman.
Yeah, I love Frogman.
Yes. That one, it's got to be true.
But dude, I mean, look up Bat Squatch. It's phenomenal.
You know, one of the things we talked about, and I always find this really interesting because it's easy to say things like, well, you know, at this point we've discovered all the creatures and science knows everything. But what we find, if you look back even 100 years, science has not always discovered everything. And one of the things that we talked about was like, if you look at like, I'll just give a couple quick examples, like the panda bear, right? If you'd go back 150 years, Americans were still denying that that was real, where it was completely well known on the Asian continents, right? And they're like, panda, there's no such bear like that. Well, of course, it turned out there was. Then the next one was in 1930 couple. There's a type of fish called the coelacanth, which has been extinct for 16 million years. And in 1939, somebody caught one alive.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's like, so there's definitely the possibility that there's some things that have not been discovered yet.
There's corners of the earth that we've never visited.
Right. You know? Especially when you talk about underwater, right?
Yeah.
Or the Amazon. There's species we're discovering every day. I mean,
one of them was, they talk about this, it's called the batrachian behemoth. It's a frog. This frog is bigger than a dog. A guy caught one alive. It's so big he could barely pick it up. It's a frog.
What the hell?
I don't like that one bit.
He's got a YouTube channel too. When you see it, you're going to go, that's got to be fake.
No, I've seen this guy as a pet, like a tree frog that's like this big.
That's one.
And I didn't even know they get that big. I thought it was fake too, but no, it's a real frog that like sticks to his wall.
Right.
It's like something. It's almost unnerving to see that because you're like, I've never seen that outside of like a horror movie.
Well, and one of the things you might dig this. One of the things that we tried to tie together in the book, and you might get this vibe a little bit, when you start to look at Bigfoot sightings, they are very commonly associated with what they call a UFO flap. And what I mean by that, when people see Bigfoot, it's not like there's a UFO over his head. But like in the neighboring county, there were 6 sightings that night. Like they're usually sort of grouped slightly closely together.
Mm-hmm. That's weird.
Yeah, and it's like, and it isn't like once or twice. It's like more than 6 or 7 times. And they even say things when someone sees Bigfoot. Sometimes they will go around to neighboring things and be like, well, did you see anything unusual besides that? And be like, well, now that you mention it, there's a weird light up over above the, like there's almost always a sighting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we could talk to you about this stuff all night, Tim.
For sure.
You did give us a great transition to the YouTube channel.
Yeah,
so let's talk a little bit about that.
To the YouTube channel. Thanks so much. So we started working on that during the last Kickstarter campaign. That was for Water Wars #4. And one of the things I learned, and to be honest, I learned it from guys like you, is that there is a market to reach your audience, which is sometimes more effective than putting out what I call an advertisement. Here's what I mean by this. Customers like to discover something. They like to discover it on their own. And they like to go to people that they trust, you know, like Fortress of Comics, right? And they say, hey, well, these guys said something was pretty cool. I want to check it out on my own. Where if it's me releasing 10 advertisements in a row, of course I'm going to say it's good, right? Because I'm totally biased. So I had to come up with a way to be more engaging with my audience in a way that felt more like a show and less like an advertisement. And here's what we came up with. What I do is I try to interview somebody else. It's not just me on the show typically. And we'll go through a topic, and they're topics that we love. And, you know, that kind of similar to you guys, we engage in a way that's very positive and enthusiastic because, you know, there's lots of negative shows already, right? It's more fun to sort of gas on about stuff you're really into. And what we do is we organize it into a list of 11 things, call it Holden's Top 11. And then we analyze the topics. And then when I get to the end of the topics, I'll say something like, hey, by the way, if you love UFO sightings, that was a recent one, you'd probably love Rodney's new book. And then I'll talk about their book.
That's awesome.
The idea being that, and I hope I say this the right way, because I'm still kind of new, really, but the indie community has been really great to me. And, you know, I feel sort of honestly, I'm grateful about the whole thing. And I said, I can't always afford to buy everybody's book. I'm already a super backer. I'm at something like 93 projects backed. And there's so many now, I just can't buy them all.
Yeah, no, we're in the same boat.
Yeah. So you get what I'm saying. So I said, I've got to find something where I'm trying in my small way to give a little something back to other people. Because by the way, we mentioned Travis earlier and Russell, like I've had great support, and you guys too. You were one of the first ones when I first started doing this.
Yep.
Not to mention being from Canandaigua.
Nice.
I was born there. But nice. I will say that I wanted to come up with something that felt natural and something that was fun that people could sort of look forward to. And then that they would feel like, hey, Tim will help me promote my book a little bit. But I don't even say just books. If you have I had a musician on once. If you're a poet, another podcaster, that's a thing too now, because let's be honest, podcasters often have much more reach than we do as writers.
Yeah.
They already have the audience, so to speak.
Right.
So I had the one podcast. Do you know Phil Locklear? He was on. We did. We did sci-fi TV shows, I think it was.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
And he's a heck of a good guy too. And by the way, he's getting ready to release a book now. So it's like, my thought is if you sometimes try to help other people a little bit, what's a good way to say this? If you're putting positivity out, you're going to start getting positivity back.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, my shortcoming that I was starting to do, and, a lot of creative types do this. So I'm sorry if I seem like I'm being a little critical, but we all tend to go, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. Instead of saying things like, hey, let's help each other a little bit. And a rising tide lifts all boats. And, the show is pretty well received. I don't have a big subscriber base yet. Like I say, I'm a little bit new, but I did get picked up by the Comic Related Madness Network. So I'm one of the affiliates there, and I guess they really liked it. So now we went to 2 shows. I do a Thursday night show where I interview other creatives about their process. And that's more like things like, how did you get the idea? Who is your work influenced by, and who would like it? That's called the Creative Cranium, and that's a 1-hour show. And I usually do 3 guests. It's like a panel. By the way, I keep mentioning Travis because I got the idea from him. It's a lot like his Creator Hangout. If you've seen Creator Hangout, mine's a lot like that.
Yeah, we've seen that for sure.
And then Friday night, I do the Holden's 11. And the Holden's 11 is a recorded show. It's not live because I do add, like, say if we're talking about say we did top 11 graphic novels, it shows like images of the book come up as we're talking and that kind of thing. And the theme is almost always the same, which is things like, hey, there's no wrong answers. We're just showing you this because we love them. If you haven't heard it, go check it out. We promise you'll love it. And if you want to chime in the comments and say how wrong Tim is, that's cool too. Because, a lot of times I have either didn't know about something or, I've forgotten so many. Like, we just did the musicals with Travis. Can you believe I forgot Pink Floyd, The Wall?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. What? I couldn't believe it. And because there's always like a set of rules. In that case, it had to have at least 3 songs. Well, The Wall had like 18 songs or something.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did.
So that's why I want to try and create a little, I guess you'd call it a little bit of back and forth. And, sometimes the videos do pretty well. I'm getting a little bit of traction. And what I need to learn how to do, and I'm hoping I can learn from guys like you, is to slowly build up my audience to where, my hope is that it'll attract more customers and, the type of person that would watch something, like Christopher and I were talking about Planet of the Apes earlier. And realistically, the type of person that would watch a broadcast about Planet of the Apes or that they would want to discuss Planet of the Apes, that's the type of person that will really like Water Wars.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you're making the connection there through another medium that's familiar with, somebody's familiar with like Aliens and Twilight Zone and all this stuff. And they're like, oh yeah, I love this stuff. And they're like, oh, this guy is into that stuff too. And he's making stories related to that. Okay.
It's kind of like they can discover it. Right. And that's always the tough thing. Cause some of the things, speaking directly, I don't do as well on. And these are areas that I need to improve at, which I'll mention to any creator that will listen. One of the things is I don't do enough conventions. Look, it'd be great if I could do 10 conventions a year, but I still have to raise a family of 3. And for me, still I start talking tickets and table and a hotel room and food for 3 days.
Flights,
I'm in easily, $1,500, $2,000 a weekend. I am not gonna, and I understand it's for marketing, so I'm not a dummy.
Right.
But I usually don't cover my costs to that much. So what I've been doing, I do one convention a year. That's Baltimore Comic-Con.
Okay.
Any chance you guys might come to that?
When
Don't
is
think
it
I'm doing that
September.
this year.
I probably won't make that one this year.
It's in September?
Is it?
Yeah, they moved it. It used to be October. They moved it up to September this year.
Okay, maybe then.
I'll have to look into it. Maybe.
But so what I do is I just do the one, and I might do two. It looks like I'm going to do Harrisburg too. But I do like a big splash. Like I do the double table, double banners, and there's a contest. And try to do one great big one for the year. In this case, I'm flying in our letterer, Matthias Zanetti. He's coming from Argentina to attend it. So
that's awesome.
Oh, wow.
We're going to try and do some panels and that kind of thing.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, thanks. We're really excited about it. So, but that, like I say, that's my only one. And I've noticed that the creators who do at least one convention a month, or some of the people do two of them a month, they perform very well on Kickstarter because they are reaching that audience face to face and building those relationships, which is so critically important. And in my case, it's as much as I love to do it and, I'm enthusiastic to try it. In my case, it's just more of a financial, I can't put it together. Like, I can't.
Understood. Yeah. It's such a high cost with traveling and everything. Yeah. It's crazy.
To be honest with you, I don't know how the guys do it. And I ask him, I'm like, well, how do you, cause I'm friends with Trevor Fernandez Linkovich, and I love his work a lot. That's Area 51. And he's another sci-fi guy who's doing something a little bit different. And he just had, what was it? A $12,000 Kickstarter, man, congratulations. And the thing that he religiously does is he goes to the conventions and meets the fans and the followers and things. And that is it'd be fair to say that's my Achilles heel. I've got to somehow find a way to do more of it. Maybe that's my 2024 goal.
I just bought tickets for the first time to a con in a long time. We've gotten press passes for a while to stuff. And this one I didn't think of. So I just bought a day ticket, and I'm even just attending, 1 day ticket, all that stuff. I now sitting back, I'm like, I can't believe so many people do this. Yeah. It was so much money. I don't even want to say how much it was, but it was so much that I cannot believe that people.
Did you do a hotel room and stuff?
No. Just for the ticket and to park for the day. Just that. I could not believe people put up that much money for this.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And it's, by the way, I admire people that do it, and I'm a little bit jealous. And for the record, again, with the podcasters and the press passes, I'm so grateful that people do that, because that is something that helps everybody. I mean, it helps the follower, it helps the creator, it helps the broadcaster. So it's something that we need desperately, No. So, and I've even thought, eventually, I want to get to the level where the cons invite me. That'd be a great thing. I'm probably several years away from that. But if that doesn't work, I thought maybe, I'll try and ask for a press pass. And then when I get there, I'll set up a table, Right. One of the things I did this year, and you guys would probably like this, once I get my booth set up and I have like my helpers and stuff, it's mostly my family. And I got one guy who always comes. It's they're like my road managers, I call it. And they can run the booth while I'm not there. So I go around to every publisher and I submit books to publishers, just so they know what I'm doing. And it never hurts to have your name in the ring for things.
Yep.
And then the second thing, as often as I am able, I visit every indie creator and I ask them what they are making. And I ask if I can take their photo with me and put it on social media. And last year, I think I got 13 or 14, something like that. And there was like, hey, because it's great marketing for them too. Maybe somebody that likes my book might like theirs. You never know.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of still in that. I guess you'd say I'm in the relationship building stage.
That's good though.
Yeah, that was my third convention that I went to.
Yeah, it takes a while. It took us, I don't know, at least a few years to get into the swing of things where people start recognizing you and want to come back. And
when year 7 or 8?
I think 8 now.
Nice, congratulations!
I got the poster.
It's been a while.
Our established date. I look at every so
after
often.
rebranding and stuff. But I mean, I'm hoping here that we made a good connection with you. A lot of people start seeing your work, Tim, and all the awesome things you're doing. You're putting positive vibes out, and I know, I mean, just from the success we've seen you in the first time on the show to where you are now, you're part of the community. people want to be working with you, which is awesome because of just the attitude you have about everything. So, yeah, I thought, thanks again for being on the show. We're so glad to have you here, and you're always welcome back. I mean, just because of how positive you are and all the great information, insight you share with us. But yeah, and if our listeners or our followers want to, follow all the things you're doing, where would you send them to?
Well, the easiest way now is, there's a couple things. I'm always on Facebook, of course, which I still get a little bit of traction from. I'm Timothy Fling. I'm on YouTube, and YouTube has what they call a handle now. And the easiest way to find it, I'm at Timothy Fling.
Yep.
And that'll take you, it shows you our top 11 lists, and it also our live broadcasts that we do with other creators. Great. And of course, I also have my website, which is earthdogstudios.com. And that one is mostly how you can buy the products. If you don't necessarily want to buy stuff, feel free to reach out to me any other place. I would love to sell stuff, but I'm not quite to the level where that's all I need. Like I say, I'm still building so if you just want to learn about it, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook, through YouTube. I am on Twitter. I'm at TFlizzy. I don't do that well on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't think anybody does really.
Yeah, I try, but
it's tough.
Yeah, you got to be saying funny quips and stuff like that. And I'm a pretty funny guy, but I'm not, I'm trying to actually do something else.
Yeah, right.
I also just started about 10 days ago. I jumped in the TikTok water.
Oh, all right. Awesome.
I am not going to tell you, hey, this is the greatest thing ever, and I've got it all figured out. Guys, as you know, I'm at a level where I'm still figuring things out. So, I've heard people say things like, well, Twitter is really decreased, or, you got to try. And I get it that, the younger folks use TikTok. My daughter uses it. She's 26. Yep. So I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And so I'm off to a good start, I guess, but it's too early for me to say I couldn't tell you whether I like it yet or dislike it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll wait and see, I guess.
Do you guys use it? What do you think?
I mean, I use it for cooking mostly.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
I've looked for comic stuff just because I'll look up recipes and quick videos to make a recipe. And I've looked up comic stuff. There isn't a whole lot of there's a lot of comic collecting things, right? People talking about comics, but they're usually talking about like Image Comics or DC or Marvel. And I'm like, people know about this stuff already. It's there isn't enough indie stuff, I would say, on there, which is, probably, I don't know how well it would do, to be honest. Not sure.
Yeah. I had a couple of other YouTube creators talk to me about, we're talking how to grow and all that, BS behind the scenes. And one of them was telling me, like, you got to do shorts. Shorts are the big thing. You got to do, like, and it's like daily shorts and all this. And I just, my head I was getting a migraine because I'm like, I hate that stuff. I don't consume it. I don't like it. I just don't want to do it.
Christopher, I'm right there with you. And listen, I promised I wouldn't say anything negative, but I will add to what you said, which is I don't consume media that way. I understand that it's popular. And like I say, I'm not ripping on anybody. But what I was hoping to do is to maybe drive people to my YouTube channel. So mine is a little bit like that. I do like UFO sightings. I started a couple days ago. Number 11, the Kenneth Arnold site. Was it real or was it a hoax? Come check it out. Only on Holden's 11. And the hope is that because now I've got enough to where if you click through, it'll take you to my YouTube channel. Yeah. Which it takes a little while for that to get connected up or whatever. It finally started working. Yeah, but I will tell you that for me, I don't view any of the other content. Like I don't,
right.
Like I would rather listen to a podcast, or I would rather watch a YouTube channel. I like a little more depth, I guess, is what I'm
I like long form.
Yeah. And there's even people that say, by the way, I'd like to get your opinion on this. What do you think is the best time frame for interviews, podcasts, and YouTube episodes? Half hour, hour and a half?
That's a tough one, because we do audio and video. So I would say video probably under an hour, but our audio, I mean, like today we'll have a 2-hour episode. So
you can find a audience anywhere. Cause like, I mean, there's guys I know I have someone I follow. I listen to the audio version, but he does YouTube and they do like 4-hour podcasts and they do really well on YouTube. Now that he's also a name, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know.
Right.
I've heard shorter. I've heard. I mean, it's also all dependent on algorithm crap, because sometimes YouTube wants you to go shorter, and then they want you to go longer, and then
right.
I feel like if you just make what you make,
people
and
will
you
find
do it passionately and well enough, you'll find something.
Yeah,
you may not be
Dude, that's the right answer.
but you'll find something.
That's the right answer. That's the right answer.
So we took up enough of your time, Tim. You told us where to go to find you, and everybody out there, as always, all of the show notes, all the links to Tales from the Collective Initiative, the anthology. Hopefully the Call of the Cryptid campaign is up before the show launches, so I can put that in the show notes as well, and also Earthdog Studios, where you can follow all of Tim's work. So Tim, thanks so much for being on, taking time with us today. And
Thanks,
like we said earlier, welcome back anytime, man.
Thank you so much. It's one of my favorites. I really like you guys a lot.
Thanks.
Thank you.